Good evening, friends. Welcome to the episode 20 of the Career Shifts podcast. I'm your host, Gopal, and I'm excited to have you all with me for yet another impactful episode. For those of you joining us for the first time, Career Shifts is a podcast where we explore the inspiring journeys of individuals who have successfully navigated major career transitions. Whether it is moving between the industries or taking new challenges, every episode is packed with stories and insights to help you reflect on your own career path. To our regular listeners, you know what's in store and you are in for a treat today. As always, I want to kick off this episode with another quick story. Some of you may have seen this post that I shared in the morning on LinkedIn about one of my favorite books, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. I was gifted this book back in 2009 by my dear friend Matthew Abraham during a tough career transition, and its lessons have stuck with me ever since. I often go back to it for three key takeaways. Adaptability is key to growth. What made you successful in the past may not work in the new role. Don't let past success define your future. Career shifts often require a fresh mindset and willingness to leave old habits behind. Recognize and overcome blind spots. New roles reveal challenges you didn't see before, and addressing them is essential for growth. Now, these are the principles my guest lives by every day. She is someone who has continuously reinvented herself from becoming one of India's most recognizable faces in business journalism to venturing into entrepreneurial world with her platform Mentorleap. She embodies adaptability and fresh thinking at every step. So without further ado, I'm thrilled to welcome Mridu Bhandari to the show. Hi Mridu, how are you doing?
Hi, Gopal. Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing wonderful. Um, a lot of questions are going to follow, and this is, can I say, a role reversal of sorts today?
Absolutely. You got the easier job today.
I'm sure. I'm sure. So, before we begin, do you have any opening thoughts or comments for the audience listening in?
I think I'm delighted to be here, and career shift is such an important conversation at this point in time because I think, especially for mid-career professionals like us, I think we feel very strongly about wanting to do more with our life. Perhaps this was not the case 15 years ago when we were very happy being just salaried employees in our daily 9 to 5 or 9 to 9 or 9 to the next morning 8 a.m. jobs.
Yeah.
But now we want to do a lot more with our lives, and I think that realization has come in the last couple of years that you've got one life and one career, but you can do many things with it. So delighted to be here on this conversation today.
Wonderful. To all the audience listening in, feel free to share your questions, your thoughts, your comments on the chat, on LinkedIn and YouTube, wherever you're listening it from. I'll be more than happy to take those questions for Mridu. And please do drop in which city you're joining us from so we know where you're listening to this episode from. Um, Mridu, we were discussing this just before the start of this podcast as well, in terms of how careers have evolved to a stage where, if we were to compare our careers to the careers of our parents, for that matter, they would typically be career loyalists. However, today we have moved on to do a lot more stuff than what we typically would have done in a lifetime career. So, any thoughts on what kind of has evolved, what has led to this situation from your perspective, your experiences, your journey?
I think a number of societal changes. Number one, that the awareness has gone up a lot. I guess 15 years ago, when I was joining the media, for instance, or that was about 18, 19 years ago. I was the only person in my family, and actually, even today, I'm the only person in my family who's gone into media as a career. Now, my father is a retired Indian Air Force officer. My mother was a principal in schools. My brother is an engineer. My sister in law is an engineer. Most of my extended family. So you will see these these jobs that existed forever. And there are just a few of us, I think, even in my entire extended family, who've branched off and done something different. And the next generation, my nephews, my nieces, they're doing amazing stuff. They're doing more than what I did. So that's how life evolves, and that's how the world works, right? They're more exposed with respect to the internet generation. They have more opportunities. I think they're way smarter than we used to be at their age, and very much more aware, very much more, out there, seeking connections, networking better, learning more, traveling more, having so much
Yeah.
more world exposure that they really get to learn from. So, for instance, my niece is doing something in the mental health space. Now, that is not something anyone in
Wow.
my family ever did before. Or my nephew has got a health tech startup, AI startup in the healthcare space. Now, these are all careers that we probably didn't think of, and our parents definitely didn't think of, and the opportunity
True
wasn't
that.
there. And of course, there's a bunch of things that have happened. The world has changed. The internet has leveled the playing field. We are all in a global village with very few boundaries now. You can do an internet business from anywhere in the world and be working with people anywhere in the world now from the comfort of your home. So that has changed. That has been a big leveler. Technology has been a big leveler. The quality of education has changed. Access to education abroad, for instance, you have that now from the comfort of your home or office again. That
Right.
has changed. Recognition for these degrees or small courses has come in more, and your credibility and your skill sets and everything has evolved. So I think it's a bunch of these changes, and of course the fact that we are all much more aware of the fact that we have more potential. And I love to say this, that I truly believe I'm a multi-potentialite, as is everyone else. We all have a lot of potential to unlock, and it's just about becoming that self-aware and starting that journey of doing different things with your life and your career. Because if should you choose to, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being a career loyalist and being that way if you want to, but should you want to experience other things, that's a possibility. And I think more people are now aware of this possibility, and that has brought about a big change.
Indeed, indeed. I completely agree with you. I think one reflection as I was having when you were saying this was I took my first flight in my life ever when I was 22. My son probably took it when he was 2 months old.
Yeah,
Speaks volumes about how things have changed and internet and as they say, kids today are born with mobile phones in their hands. So the amount of data that they are consuming perhaps is a lot more than how you and I would have done when we started our careers, or probably even when we were born.
absolutely.
Sahil is on the show. He says, Mridu, you look very familiar. Did we hear you last on Heartfelt Conversations with Vikas Dua? Absolutely.
You did,
Just,
Sahil.
just
If I'm not wrong, Sahil was the one who won that book on that episode, or was it one of the other episodes with Vikas? I don't know, but I
no,
do.
it was someone else. It was someone else. And I remember the fact that Vikas was unable to trace that person who won the book. I guess so. I mean, that again, I'm guessing that was the case. Or if Sahil, if you won, then great. Kudos to Mridu's
Yes,
memory.
yes, I'm the same ones.
Nadia says, hello. Rakesh says, hello. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. Keep your questions coming in. It's going to make it a lot more engaging and interactive than a dialogue between the two of us. Mridu, coming to your incredible journey so far, from winning the Ramnath Goenka Award at such a young age to becoming a renowned face in the business news platform, if you really look back, what would you say was one of the biggest turning points in your career? And how did that influence the way you approach the work today?
So, if I was to look back, I don't think there was a single A turning point. I think it was a
Mhm.
lot of things that happened along the way. And if I reflect back on the last 18, 19 years and I try to join the dots now, and of course, that's the benefit of hindsight, I think a lot of this happened because I've always had the habit of saying yes to new things, new experiences. Even if I don't know how to do it, I will first say, yes, I'm going to do it. And then I'll figure out a way on how to do it. So,
Mm.
so I think a lot of the things happened because of that. So I said yes to investigative journalism just 9 months out of journalism school. I was a desk writer for about 8, 9 months. CNN IBN, now CNN News 18, then CNN IBN. We were all founder employees of that channel.
Yeah.
It was my first job. And I didn't really know investigative journalism. I had not learned any investigative journalism, but the editor of that team during our training program perhaps saw some potential and offered that, would you like to join our team? So I said, sure, yes, I would love to join your team,
Mm.
because it sounded very fancy, investigative journalism. And and as a naive 21-year-old, that is about as much I knew about investigative journalism at that point in time. And all credit to my then bosses and mentors who really gave me a very free hand in pitching ideas, going out into rural India. So I decided to focus on rural development, and I did a lot of documentaries. I traveled to the remotest villages of India in times when there was no internet and we did not have smartphones. So,
No
and also
WhatsApp.
no WhatsApp. Also credit to my parents who were very supportive that their 21-year-old daughter is usually traveling with an all-male crew by road to remote areas in India. So I think it was pretty brave of them. I'm not sure I'm going to be that brave with my children, you know. So,
Yeah.
so full credit to them. So it was yeses at different points in time. Investigative journalism, yes, I'm going to do it. Few years later, I was a founder employee at another business news channel that was launching something for the MSME space, micro, small, and medium enterprises. So they said, will you lead this weekly show? I said, yes, absolutely. I didn't know anything about MSMEs at that point in time. I'd come from investigative journalism, but I learned and I decided that, yeah, weekly show, that's a huge opportunity for someone very young. I get to be the editorial director of the show. I get to be the executive producer of the show, and I get to anchor the show. Fantastic. So that took me to a lot of factories, a lot of manufacturing places. You name a product, and I've been to a factory and shot that product in the making. Whether it's
Wow.
steel pipes, whether it's biscuits, whether it's textiles, whether it's toothpaste, whatever you can possibly look around and find. Most likely, I've been to something related to that. I've been to a factory and shot it. So again, that was a yes, and hence that turned out to be so exciting for me. Then I think 16, 17 years of WorkX, I got the Chevening Scholarship to go and study in London, do a full-time master's course. That was a yes. And we were in COVID. And I said, no, this is something I've got to do. And what a fantastic opportunity to go back to school after 16, 17 years. So I decided to do a second master's. And again, I didn't have a plan. I just liked the subject of entrepreneurship. So I thought I wasn't somebody who was like, oh, yeah, I'm so passionate. I want to open my startup and I want to start a business. And that's why I want to learn entrepreneurship. It was just that I needed a break because I
Mm.
felt like I'm not growing anymore. I'm not learning anything new. Let's go, let's study something. Oh, what could be interesting for me? Entrepreneurship is a great subject. Let's study this and we'll see where it goes from there. So there was a yes to that. And then when Mentorleap happened, again, it was, do I want to say yes to entrepreneurship or do I want to stay like a salaried employee? And what do I want to do? So I said, oh, okay, I don't know anything about entrepreneurship. So let's say yes and get in there and find out, which is what I'm doing right now.
Wonderful. We briefly spoke about this part of how this decision happened, and especially because a lot of people who start in media typically transition or take the path of transitioning into corporate affairs, public policy kind of roles for a lot of organizations. Um, Also, the fact that most of these business houses are in, or media houses are in Gurgaon, Delhi, NCR, and also happens to be the headquarters for a lot of organizations. It's a natural transition. Um, do you want to reflect upon how that transition to entrepreneurship happened? And because it's a very unique one, right? I mean, not something that typically comes. for a lot of
Yeah,
professionals.
I mean, there's nothing too intelligent about it, Gopal. Honestly, it was just like, what am I going to enjoy? So a lot of people told me that you should do public policy, you should do, corporate affairs, because that's the usual path that a journalist takes. That you've learned so much
Mm,
about policy, you've networked with policymakers. Public policy is a natural fit that comes to you. And I opened up the modules of public policy courses in the UK, and to be honest, I was just like, this is too boring for me. That was the
mm,
feeling I got when I was doing my graduation in BCom honors from Delhi University. It was the second toughest course, and I was in a
mm,
fantastic college, Sri Venkateshwara College in South Campus. But I hated the course, and I felt like I'm
mm,
such a fit, because this is just not what I want to do. Um, and I think my mother at that point was the only one who was telling me that you've got through English honors in LSR, you should go and study that because you love the language. And I said, no, no, I want to be a finance whiz, and I want to be in finance, and that's going to be very cool.
oh,
So I'm going to do BCom honors. And I literally cried my way through that course, just wanting to get done with a degree and then figure out the next steps of my life. So when I opened public policy modules, I got that feeling that I had felt 20 years ago, that this is going to make me feel like BCom honors. And when I opened entrepreneurship modules, and UCL, University College London's course particularly excited me, because it was so application oriented, taught by industry leaders and not just academicians. Everyone who taught that course, any module, had to have done a startup which had either failed or become successful. That doesn't matter, but someone who had tried their hands at entrepreneurship. And that really excited me. So honestly, it was just about, this is an exciting space. And also because I talk to entrepreneurs on a daily basis as
yes,
part of the business news channel. So I felt like, okay, even if I don't become an entrepreneur after all this, after this 1.5 year course, what's the worst that can happen? My conversations will get better on TV. When I talk to startup founders and VCs, I'll just have better questions to ask as a journalist,
yes,
because I will look at it from an academic lens also.
correct,
So yeah,
correct.
no real thought there. Just what will I enjoy? As simple as that.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the toughest for a lot of people, to pursue what they enjoy. One, because incidentally, I wrote about this morning as well. Like, one, because they perhaps do not have that awareness about what are the options that exist. And reskilling and lifelong learning is still a concept that is alien to a lot of people. And I think it requires a lot of courage to have clarity and conviction to take a path that you took, which is commendable. So thank you for sharing that, Mridu. I'm gonna reflect back on the earlier comment that you made on how the landscape of your journalism, initial days of journalism, was, and in terms of how the working conditions were the way they were. Um, but you've also moved on to do journalism in London, if I'm not wrong, and have done variety of work in a totally different landscape, industry, culture. How do you see both? Are there similarities, number one, or are there differences? And which one would you really choose if you were to be given another chance?
Ah, choose is like, which hand of yours would you choose? Is it that? That? But I think the experiences have been fabulous. So in London, what I did was an experiential stint at the BBC, and I worked with their long form audio department, which is essentially podcasts, but not video
Hmm.
podcasts, podcasts that are audio podcasts. And
Hmm.
that was amazing, because up until now, for the last 18, 19 years, I have been working in TV. And the storytelling in TV is a lot to do with the visuals that we produce, right? So you
Yes.
write to visuals, your script is written to visuals. We always, even when we are teaching journalism, we say, write to visuals, write to visuals. What that means is
Wow.
that visuals are telling the story and you are supplementing it with your writing. Whereas when
Hmm.
it's in audio form, obviously your writing changes completely, because you want the person to be able to imagine what you are, visualize in their head what you're trying to
Hmm.
say with the words.
Sure.
So So the kind of writing completely changes. Again, with Indian newsrooms, what I learned here was speed, because we are in
Mm,
a very competitive landscape. Speed is very, very important. Accuracy also, but yeah, we are in a cutthroat competitive landscape where everyone wants to put out exclusives or news or programs faster than the competitor, right? So you have to think
mm,
on your feet, you have to be really quick, and 100% of my work here has been video. Now, I've learned a lot of content formats here. So whether it's an in-studio show, whether it's an on-ground event, live hosting of events, moderating panel discussions live, doing docu-feature series, having quiz shows in studio where we've had children coming and battling it out in a competitive format. So we've done various kinds of formats. Then when social media came in, we've done Facebook lives, we've done tweetathons, we've done Instagram
wow.
live, various kinds of different formats, right? And now we're doing podcasts, video podcasts as well. So the variety that I got to do here was amazing, is still amazing. I continue to
Mm,
do some of that. And the content variety that I get here is also very, very varied, because I'm in the long form programming space. So I don't particularly follow a beat. So I could be talking business, I could be talking economics, I could be talking entrepreneurship. This month alone,
wow.
I've been talking esports, breast cancer, artificial
Yeah.
intelligence, retirement insights, EB5 investor visa program in the US. So really the subjects vary from north to south and from east
Yeah.
to west, which is
Yeah.
very exciting for me. And in London, what I did, the podcast I particularly worked on was a very emotional storytelling format where we invited women, mostly moms, but sometimes dads
Mm,
also, to write letters to their daughters. And then those letters were discussed on BBC Live, by the parent. And the letter would have some issue related to women. So, for instance, we had a woman from Pakistan writing to her daughter about how she does not wish for her daughter to go through an arranged marriage and have more in life, as compared to what her own life used to be. Or we had somebody from, somebody talking about being financially independent, somebody just writing a fun letter to their daughter about nail paints and boyfriends and whatever else. So it was a different kind of content. And for me, that was very new, because I've been in news, hard news all the time. So this was emotional content. This was felt a little fluffy in the beginning,
mm,
when I
mm.
started working on it, for lack of a better word. But then I realized what an impact something like this can have on global audiences, because it was a podcast that was downloaded in 190 countries. So,
Wow.
and it was an award-winning show. So the power of that idea was incredible. And yeah, and I also learned that anyone can have that idea. So to give you a little backstory about that podcast, it's called Dear Daughter, and it's available on Spotify, etc. I don't work on for the BBC or on the podcast anymore, but just saying that because it's a really nice show. uh,
Sure.
and it was an idea that came from a woman in Kenya who entered into a competition that the BBC had launched, that if you have a podcast idea, just write to us, share your idea, and we'll help you turn it to reality. So this woman from Kenya writes to the BBC in the UK, submits her idea, the BBC loves it, and they actually go ahead and produce it, and they
Produce
fly her
it.
to Kenya to the UK, to do some of the show related things, promotions and marketing, etc. But I thought that is so incredible that you can sit somewhere in the world, and you can be flying to London next month and launching a show because you had such a powerful idea.
Power of digitization, I would say. Otherwise, I don't think this would have been possible. So, kudos to all the work that you've done and being part of such a wonderful journey and sharing that with us as well. I think this sometimes this StreamYard has this habit of not sharing the name of person who wrote this, but it is Neeti Tandon. Says, "Nice chat, Neetu, Mridu. So nice to have seen you through the amazing journey." We have Mr. Jagdish Kinney joining us and saying hello, and a lot more comments that I keep seeing. So, moving on, Mridu. I think your time at the UCL, I'm sure it was transformative, right? At the end of the day, entrepreneurship or studying entrepreneurship itself is something which is not something that people would have heard from their parents typically. I mean, it's something that has come in more as a domain expertise of people being there, having done that. So when you were going through the course at the UCL, I'm sure it would have changed a lot of perspectives for you. Um, how did that idea convert into Mental Leap?
Yeah, well, like all things happen to me, not by plan. So I think it was the fact that while you are studying masters in entrepreneurship at UCL, you are encouraged to think of an idea and apply everything that you're learning. So you're learning strategy, you're learning financial modeling, you're learning marketing, you're learning various aspects. It's like you can call it an MBA in starting up. So
Right.
it's not theoretical at all. They teach you a lot of, classroom lectures are there. And then they tell you to go and find your real customers, validate your idea, so my first paying customer was actually found while I was still studying the course, and Mentorleap was
Oh
in a
wow.
different. So so yeah, so I think the idea happened because I think it was just the fact that there was a little bit of a pressure that you have to have an idea to start working on, to apply the knowledge that you're learning, and it's something that you have to be passionate about, because otherwise you're not going to carry it through. So I think I started checking off what are the things that I really like to do, what are the things that have affected me in life. Mentorship
Mm,
was a word that kept coming back to me, and I felt like I've been
mm,
lucky and privileged enough to have mentors in life. A lot of people are not. A lot of people don't have access to good mentors or don't know where to find them. And especially in India, I think we have the culture of just going to our immediate bosses, immediate superiors, and making them our mentors. And sometimes it turns out fantastic, but sometimes it doesn't. And it's not a natural fit. You're just doing it because he or she is your reporting manager and you kind of just look up to them. So it started with that. And the first vertical of Mentorleap was to have conversations, which is one on one mentoring. So if I'm a mentor on the platform and maybe a journalism student wants to log in, or an early professional in the field of journalism, or an early stage entrepreneur wants to set up a virtual mentoring session with me and get some guidance, we work. That's how it works. And that's one vertical. Cohorts is the second one, which I started playing around with after I passed out of UCL, which was about live skilling. So I designed a course in public speaking and workplace communication, which is called Speak with Impact. Again, that came from an experience that I felt like people have so much potential, especially people who have really, really high hard skills, technical skills, financial knowledge. And where they seem to lose out is that they're not able to communicate properly about
yeah.
their ideas. They use a lot of jargon. They're not able to simplify it and make it very easy for other people to understand. And sometimes they lose career opportunities because of this, or they're unable to build themselves as authority figures in their respective
Yeah.
fields because they're unable to distill it into a very simple, easy to understand format. So that was the thought process with which I started my first batch of Speak with Impact about a year and a half back. And I was testing ground and seeing if cohorts work, if people like live learning, because we have so many recorded courses now, and recordings have their own advantages of being able to, do it as and
Scale.
when you want. Yeah, scale and pace. As a learner, you sometimes want that I should be able to do this at my own pace. I don't want to
Correct.
attend class today. So, but the uptake of the cohorts has been great, and now I'm closing, just about finishing the seventh batch in the next 2 weeks. So, working professionals and entrepreneurs around the world, and I've had them from 13 countries now, are
Wow.
interested in learning better communication skills and public speaking skills. So, yes, and the third leg is content, because conversations, cohorts, and content, that's what Mental Leap is about. Content, I have to admit, I'm still a little slow on it, but that's my passion area. I've been in the business of content throughout my life.
Yeah.
So any business that I ever do will always have content attached to it. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, hopefully we'll be creating a lot more content around careers and career acceleration. So yeah, listeners, if you have ideas on what sort of conversations you want aside from career shifts, please reach out.
Absolutely, absolutely. We need. I mean, to be honest, we need a lot more of emphasis on all the things that you're doing. And I think if you really look at the buzz around the entire ecosystem of people, the fact is that we don't produce great leaders, which is a bit of a sad thing, which kind of leads to bad workplace practices, talent problems, attrition, and sometimes it is as simple as not being able to be in tune with your emotions, in tune with the way your thoughts are relayed. So your articulation, I mean, the struggles with articulation, and then perhaps leading into a situation where you say things in the wrong way, use the wrong words. So I truly commend you for the kind of work that you're doing. Very much need of the hour. We need a lot more focus, emphasis on things like this across large corporations as well. So yeah, I mean, that's what my few thoughts on that would be. But yeah, it's been an interesting transition for you. I mean, in terms of what you do in your the news business world and what you're doing in the Mentorleap world, though there are tools, assets, experience that you're trying to convert it into what you do in Mentorleap, but both are totally different worlds. How do you manage time between the two?
Well, I have got to admit that's a thing that I still struggle with. I feel like I'm much more stretched out now than I was as an
Hmm.
employee. I had to switch off on the weekends, and I didn't have to do beyond Friday, whatever time I finished work. Saturday, Sunday was definitely off. And now I'm teaching on Saturday, Sundays, and designing cohorts and looking at assignments and
Yeah.
planning for the next batch and whatever else. So time management, I think what I've done is now I find time blocking very helpful. So if I
Hmm.
have, and I find it, I know that to-do lists are passe, but they still work for me. So
Sure.
I love to have a to-do list maybe the previous night or the morning when I'm starting out. And I love physically striking out tasks that I'm doing, because that just makes me feel like an achiever. And that's something that
Hmm.
I've been doing since school and college, and that's a habit that's not going anywhere. So and I read a lot about productivity. So when I went back to school to UCL after 16 years of work, uh, focus was a problem, time management was a problem, because it's easy, I would say it's very easy to work 12, 16 hours in a job, as compared to studying with focus for 5 hours or 6 hours
Hmm.
a day,
Hmm.
after you've been working for that long. So I think, and UK 1 year taught masters are very, very rigorous. There's a lot of expectation of reading a lot and coming to class knowing everything already and then contributing to the discussions. So there was a lot of reading to be done, and the first 3 months I really struggled with it, and I started using the Pomodoro technique of time management. 30-minute chunks, 25 minutes I will switch off everything else and just focus on what I have to read. And then I will reward myself with a 5-minute break, or 5 minutes of looking at my phone, or whatever the reward might be, and then come back. And so it took a little time. So that has helped me. And even now, when I feel like I'm lacking focus, Pomodoro is something that I do very often. Other than that, my days are blocked out. So I know that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'm working on content with the network with which I'm a consultant. So those 3 days
Sure.
are blocked out. And the other 4 days are mine, and I'm free to design them the way I want. And that keeps changing, because as an entrepreneur, there's so much you have to do. Sometimes it's meetings, sometimes it's calls, sometimes I'm teaching, sometimes I'm designing marketing material, whatever it is. So depending on what's the need of the hour. But yeah, I mean, I can't say I have very intelligent solutions to time management. It's just you got to do what you got to do. I will reach a stage
Well,
where I will be delegating more. That should free up some
yes.
time. That
Yeah.
that's at least a few months away right now. Mhm.
Yeah, a founder is always protective about the work. That is what I've seen mostly. So I'm sure you will grow, your business will grow to an extent where you are able to hire a lot of people for yourself.
Thank you. Amen to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Mridu, you have kind of, interviewed through your journey of being a journalist a lot of people who we typically a commoner would look up to, and kind of even perhaps idolize in many ways, right? Um, so, question is, how did you feel about that? Maybe the first interview that you did, that's one. And second is, today, after having spoken to so many people across various walks of life, who is your idol that you idolize today?
Okay, tough one. The first interview I ever did, I think the first few interviews I did were related to rural India. They were not of anyone
Mm.
well known. They were stories, impact stories of people. I did a documentary on manual scavengers. I did a series on child labor.
Wow.
So, I did a series on children dying under the age of 5 because of malnutrition. So
Mm.
all of these were interviews and reports that I did, which did not have any famous people, but I think they gave me the most satisfaction in life because some of that work actually was picked up by activists and used as evidence for bringing about a change. So, for example, we shot in villages of Madhya Pradesh where manual scavenging used to happen back then,
Mm.
and a public interest litigation was filed in which they took our video and our episode of that documentary, and that was the one that won the Ramnath Goenka Award as well. That and child labor
Mm.
reports. But that work was used to make a difference because people picked up
Sure.
that work and then submitted it in court and said that this is evidence, there's
Mm.
video evidence of this happening. How is an MLA saying that there is no manual scavenging happening in that area? And they
Mm.
called change. And today, there is zero manual scavenging in that particular village where we went. And of course, it's been a long, long journey, and we played a very minuscule role, but we helped spread some awareness around the issue.
Mm.
So that was work that I was very proud of, and yes, with CEOs, with celebrities, I've had the good fortune of interviewing quite a few, and I must say that what I feel is gratitude. Firstly, that I get to live this life, and I get to
Mm.
meet such interesting people, and I get to travel and be on TV while doing all this. So really, there's nothing I do I like about being where I am as a journalist. And that so I hate my job was not the motivation for me to turn entrepreneur at all, because if anything, it's made my life more difficult that I want to be in both the boats, and I at some point I
Yeah.
will have to decide where I want to be if I want to scale up the
Well,
business.
don't be Ajay Devgan of being on
Yeah,
both the bikes or horses or whatever you want to say, because
yeah,
I mean,
I'm not that
interestingly, one of
smart.
yeah, interestingly, I was talking to a famous actor, Mr. Raja Krishnamurthy, and he does exactly the dabbling even today. So he's an HR consultant and he does acting as well. And I asked him like, how do you manage both? And he says it's a choice that I make, and it's not an easy one to live with. And his advice to a lot of people was choose one, because that's often something that will take you to sure success pretty quickly. The more you dabble, the more you are on two different career paths, it becomes a lot more difficult to adjust. But that's his perspective, and here we are, speaking to you with a slightly more different perspective as well. So thank you for sharing. Audience, if there are any questions that you have for Mridu, please share those with us on the chat. I'll pick it up on as we move along. Um,
You also asked me whom I idolize, and
yes, thank you for reminding me that.
I would say a lot of the women leaders today. So
Mm,
I love my conversations. I'm biased. I'm openly saying I'm biased towards women leaders. I want more women leaders on my
yes,
shows.
absolutely.
I love my conversations with them. I feel like women are able to be empathetic, emotional, hold safe spaces, be vulnerable while being intelligent business leaders at the same time, and they
Correct.
offer so much more nuanced conversations. Not to offend any men on this podcast, but but I just love having conversations with women leaders because I feel like they genuinely do bring a different dimension to the table, which uh, a lot more we need of right now, and not enough women still speaking up. A lot of the panels I still do are all male panels, and I'm
Yeah.
constantly telling teams that why can't we have a mandate of having at least one woman speaking on every panel discussion that we have, because there are so many out there, we just need to find them and give them the
Yeah.
platform. So
Yeah. It takes a bit of effort, no doubt about that. It takes a bit of effort, but I'm sure it can be a lot more. And talking about that, interestingly, I had a chat with someone this morning. And often, when the topic of DEI comes in most of the corporate communications or corporate chats, it's focused around gender. But I happened to be talking to someone, interestingly, when I was in Delhi and I was at the lemon tree. There comes this guy who brings in the food, and he has a small label on his neck, and he's wearing and says he can't speak. And I found it, I mean, one, I mean, I didn't know what to respond to, right? I mean, it was very difficult. But then I was so happy to hear that that Lemon Tree has in fact done hiring for such people, and I think there needs to be a lot more inclusion. I think in the whole race of DEI, we're forgetting the inclusion part. But I must say you're right that we need to see a lot more women across a lot of these conversations, because they just do bring in very different perspective. Completely with you on that. Um, moving to the next question that I had for you, at the end of the day, you end up mentoring a lot of people today as part of your Mentorleap program. Um, how do you kind of work with them, and what is that one thing that you tell them about balancing creativity with realities of running business? Because I mean, I spent 2 years at IIM Ahmedabad, and most of them came with a view that they wanted to start something on their own at some point of time in their future, but they are probably starting the initial path of choosing a corporate career. But everyone had this urge to become an entrepreneur. What are your thoughts, or is this a trend that is going to continue growing? And what would your advice be for such people as they start their journey of entrepreneurship?
yeah, so I think the trend is definitely going to continue, and I think it is India's decade. India is doing great as far as the entrepreneurial push is concerned. There are policy initiatives that are happening. There's a lot of incubation happening in different pockets. There are a lot of organizations making the effort, public sector, private sector efforts being made to really push entrepreneurship and
Mm,
create more jobs, because entrepreneurship is what creates more jobs, right? You have more entrepreneurs, every entrepreneur creates even 5 jobs. That's a lot of millions of jobs getting created every year for the economy. So I don't think the trend is going anywhere, it's only going to go upwards. My advice to people who want to start something of their own is to try and again, it's a I don't think one advice fits all. It depends on where you are in your career journey. What is it that you want to do? I think the first thing to know is why. What is your purpose? Why
mm,
do you want to do what you want to do? Everything
yeah.
else will be driven by that why. Secondly, find a problem to fall in love with. So what is that one problem that you would love to solve for other people? What is that pain point? A lot of the times we think of solutions first, and then we go to market and start testing solutions. That, oh, I have this great app idea, let's launch it and let's test it.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. You first find out a problem that really needs solving. Sometimes,
Mm,
yes, you don't, the problems are not that evident. Like, for instance, now if you look at the 10-minute grocery apps, um, there's a lot of criticism when they were first launched, that who needs 10-minute grocery. And now just look at it, right? The consumer behavior is changing. I know that in my house, I think 4 times a week I'm getting 10-minute groceries, if not. So
Perhaps
yeah,
certain day, but 4 times a day as well in certain houses.
right? Diwali season is coming, and just imagine the amount of
Mm,
ordering we're going to be doing at the last minute when we have guests dropping in.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so again, what is the problem that you would like to solve? Because you need passion to solve that problem. And then also remember that passion does not pay the bills, profit does.
Mm,
So
mm,
it's very important to give thought, give action to the numbers. A lot of
mm,
entrepreneurs, a lot of uh, women entrepreneurs, not to stereotype, but somehow that's a trend that we are averse to numbers. I'm averse to numbers. I'm just like,
mm.
let somebody else deal with the financial modeling of this and figure out how will I make this much money per month to keep this afloat.
Yeah,
Uh, we need to get rid of that attitude and learn this stuff, because at the end of the day, a business is going to be sustainable and scalable only if we are able to make money. Even if you are on VC money, you at some point they will you are answerable to them. You are on borrowed capital. You have to give them exits, you have to give them returns. So it's important that we have this robust monetization strategy in place from day one. Be thinking about
yeah,
how am I going to make this profitable, because it profit can't be a backbencher and you're thinking that, yeah, let me first do this, let me enjoy this idea, this is my passion, and later I'll think about how I will make money from this. That's not a business, that's your hobby. So yeah, and finally, I think it's also very important to figure out what are the values that you want to build your business on,
mm,
because eventually that is the foundation that's going to stick. Values are something that are going to stay with you. That's where you should be operating from. That's my advice to everyone who's starting out. Think about the top 3 values or the top 5 values that you want your business to run on. What is your brand value going to be? What is your personal value system? How will you align it? How will you remain consistent with it? Because there will be times when business will be really bad. Economic downturns will happen. Things won't go your way. You will probably have zero profit months or loss making months, but your values are not something that you can change. So give ample
correct.
thought to where you start that from. And again, value is not something fluffy and something that you can be thinking about. Okay, let
Sure.
me do business for 5 years and then start thinking about my values. From day one, you need to
Yeah,
start thinking.
yeah, yeah. And most importantly, don't start the business with an exit in mind. A lot of people do that.
Well, I don't know if there's anything wrong with that, Gopal. I mean, if somebody is thinking, for instance, there was a company called Taxi for Sure, right? They sold out, I
Hmm.
think, Ola. Now, I don't know if they started with an exit in mind, but they were in the business only for 1 or 2 years, maybe 3 years
Yeah,
max.
perhaps even less. Yeah.
Uh, but they sold well, and they sold it for a good
Mm,
price, and they made good money out of it.
mm,
Um, Maybe they started that with an exit in mind, thinking that we're going to sell out to the first big cab
big.
aggregator that wants to buy us. Maybe, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that, as long
Mm,
as it doesn't. I mean, you have clarity that that's what you want to do. Again, comes back to what is your why, what's your purpose.
mm, mm, mm. Interesting. And any advice for people who are starting in journalism as a career option?
Oh yes, please, please, please tell good stories. Please stop the shouting matches on television. Please cut the noise and get to the facts. I'm very old school when it
Yeah.
comes to this. I don't believe that we need to serve opinion on prime time. We need
Mm,
to serve facts. We need to serve objectivity. We are already in such a polarized world. It is so easy to spread misinformation. It is so easy to spread rumors. It is so easy to spread hate. Can we be more responsible? And this is not just for journalists, it's for any kind of a content creator. In this whole race to become famous and have a million
yeah.
followers, don't again, operate from your values. Don't do this at the cost of, you know, sometimes people even losing their lives.
Mm.
Don't spread misinformation. If you, you know, this whole, what we call the WhatsApp university trend or the Instagram university trend,
Yeah.
please put a stop to it. I mean, you get information from anywhere, please verify the source. Just remember that every time you are pressing like, share, subscribe onto anything, you are endorsing that. So if you are
Mm.
endorsing that, are you sure where that information is coming from? If you are endorsing something as simple as, oh, you know, say a new diet fad, or a skin cream, or not just products, news that you heard somewhere, uh, a political viewpoint, do you know the source? Do you know that where it is, where did it originate? Everything has something of a vested interest or an agenda behind it today. So be sure to be aware of these things before you start, you know, spreading these stories. And yeah, as journalists, please just take that onus and take that responsibility that you are here to serve the people of the country and give them news and nobody else. We are answerable to the people, the viewers who listen to us or who watch us, who are our community. And we are not really answerable to. We are supposed to be the fourth estate. We're supposed to be able to question things. So remember that when you're taking up journalism.
Yeah. But Mridu, I'm just going to be playing a devil's advocate here. I mean, do you think it's easy for someone who's starting their career to say no? That it's. I mean, you're being asked to do things that perhaps is a directive by the news channel, and a lot of people we know that struggle to say no or struggle to play by their values, as you rightly said. What could be the advice to people like them? Because a lot of people will worry that, oh, if I were to say no or not do the shouting business, then probably I'll lose my job. What could be done for them?
So again, I think you're right. It's not easy at all. And today I'm speaking from a place of privilege because I'm in the business for 20 years. I'm empowered enough
Yeah,
to say no to things I don't want to do. A
correct.
person who's just starting out perhaps does not have that choice. But as you grow in your career, maybe you will toe the line for the first couple of years. Maybe you will not be empowered enough in your system, but you are empowered enough you to be self-aware. So be
Mm,
aware of things that you think are not right and you do not want to do. Maybe today
sure.
you are having to do it because of the organization that you're in, but maybe tomorrow this will push you to find a better job or turn entrepreneur, or make a difference in a way that you really want to. So yes,
Mm,
it's not easy to say no at all. It's very easy for me to sit here on a podcast and preach this out, and it's very difficult
mm,
to live by it for a youngster who perhaps needs that money, you know, who needs the financial stability, has responsibilities at home, cannot afford to lose a job for any reason. But what he or she can do then is to figure out that, okay, in the long term, these are not the values that I want to live by. Let me start looking out. There is a lot of opportunity available today. If
mm,
this particular organization does not align with your values don't align with the organization, you can take the time and the effort to find a place and find an opportunity that works well for you. And I think saying that no, everybody is the same, it would just be wrong. So I think
correct.
it's about finding that effort and finding, being self-aware and taking that effort that, yeah, this is not what I want to do for life.
Mm,
So you might
mm.
have to toe the line for the first couple of years. You might not be empowered enough. But at some point, you are also going to be senior enough in the system to be able to make a change. So take that opportunity.
Lovely. I think I couldn't have said it better than this. I think it's important to be self-aware, um, know what your values are, and still act with complete awareness of what you're doing and how long would you want to do. And at the end of the day, it's a choice that you will have to make at some point of time, and make that. So thank you for that, Mridu. Quickly moving on to the most fun section, rapid fire.
Oops, that's a surprise.
Yeah, that's a surprise. So I have a few questions that I would like to ask you, and It could be quick, short answers that you may want to give.
Sure.
Journalism or entrepreneurship? Which one excites you more right
Entrepreneurial journalism
now? Interesting one.
or
Um,
entrepreneurship in journalism.
okay, okay, okay. What's one book that has had a great impact on how you see your career right now, your life right now?
Atomic Habits. I don't know if it's
Mm,
if it's a career or life book, but I think it so many lessons that can be applied to so many things in life. It's all about habit and consistency and micro habits. That and if I was to look at fiction, then 40 Rules of Love by Elif
mm,
Shafak. Very beautiful book. Mhm. Again,
lovely.
a lot of lessons in there. All the italicized parts of the book are actually lessons.
I haven't read that. Maybe I'll pick it up on my next buy. Which interview left the biggest impression on you?
Interview that I have done.
Yes, the one that you have done.
Um, I think one was Nassim Nicholas Taleb long back when much before COVID, uh, when he talked about black swan events. So I think
Mhm.
I learned the term black swan event because I had to interview Talib. So I read up all about black swan events and what are these. That they are high impact. They are very rare, but they are very high impact. And I think I did that interview in about 2014 or 15, and
Wow.
uh, and in 2020 when COVID hit, suddenly we were all talking black swan events, and I was like, oh, this is what he was talking about 5 years ago. So that was interesting. And I think one with global executive coach Ramcharan. So I had a
Mm,
very fun interview with him once. So I'd read lot of reports that said that Ramcharan doesn't smile much, and so I asked him that question in that interview, that why do I keep seeing these reports that you don't smile much? What's with that? And he not just smiled, he gave me a hearty laugh at that question. So I was like, okay, that answers it. You do smile and laugh. So yeah,
interesting.
lots of conversations like that. I think the most fun parts are these lighter banter. I mean, of course,
Mm,
they say a lot of prolific things and they say a lot of
yeah.
important stuff. But what stays with me is this chitter chatter and banter that I do, much like the rapid fire we are doing.
I'm glad. If you could sit down and mentor anyone from any time, who would it be?
Oh, no, no, no. I ask me who. I don't want to mentor people. I still feel like I want to be mentored more. So, no, no, I don't have anyone who I could sit and mentor. I would love to be mentored by people. Like I felt this sense of personal loss at some of the personalities who have died
Mm,
recently. Ratan Tata, I felt like,
yeah.
oh, I never got to meet him. I never got to interview him, and that felt like a
Mm,
very personal loss as a journalist. When as a Bollywood fan, when Yash Chopra passed away, I felt like, oh, it was my dream to just do this 5 minute cameo in a Yash
yeah.
Raj film, where he would be on set and I would get to like just meet him and do like a 2 minute cameo, just so
You
yeah,
never
so
know. I mean,
he's
Yash
not
Raj Film still produces movies, and you never know.
here.
uh,
He's listening.
yeah. What's your one go-to tip for nailing it in public speaking engagement?
Just stop, just remember that you are better than 95% of that room that you're going to be addressing, because everyone is so afraid of public speaking. It's the number one fear in
Mm,
the world. It's called glossophobia. Number two is death. So people would rather uh, die than more people would rather die
wow.
than be on stage talking to other people. So just
Wow.
remember that in your head, that I'm already better off than 95% of this room because I have the courage to stand up and do this, and go with that positive mindset that you've got this, and it'll all fall into
Incredible.
place.
Yeah. Yeah. London or Delhi? Which city feels like home?
Oh my God. Such tough question. I'll feel like a traitor if I say London. London. I loved London. London has a piece of my heart for sure,
Yeah,
but Delhi is home. Mhm.
sure, sure. You spoke about habits, so I'm not going to ask you again that. But the last question for you, and we'll wrap this up with this one. How do you prefer to consume news, TV, digital, or podcasts?
Digital. Right now, digital. TV has stopped for me.
Hmm.
Ironically, I work in TV, but so the only TV news that I watch is when I'm in office surrounded by screens and I have to watch it
Yeah.
because it's right there in my face. But otherwise, I think appointment viewing is passé for the next generation. And even if we are watching news channels, we are watching them on the phone or online,
Yeah.
and we're watching
Yeah.
them at convenience. And of course, news
Mhm.
channels will continue because there's a sense of credibility that they bring to the table, and you know, a sense of uh, trust and credibility that has been
Mm.
built over decades. But the way we consume that news channel has definitely changed, and for me, it's digital.
Lovely. Mridu, it was lovely talking to you. Any thoughts, any passing thoughts or comments for the audience listening in?
Just that, why aren't you asking questions today? What happened? Where's everyone? Work busy?
Well, you will get to see those in a day or two once they have read the newsletter or perhaps even watched the podcast. So I'm sure a lot of questions that's going to come.
No, but jokes apart, I think career shift is an important, very important part of our lives. I would like to reiterate that we are all multi potentialized. We have a lot of potential to do a lot of things in life. So if you're on the fence of whether I can do this or I can't do this, can I do a job? Will I be able to do XYZ? Start small, start testing, find your first paying customers if it's entrepreneurship that you want to try. Uh, and everything, if it's any passion that you want to try, everything doesn't have to be about making money. Sometimes it's just a passion. Recognize that this is just a passion. I like yoga. Can I start making money out of yoga tomorrow? Maybe not.
Mm,
So that's something that's a passion, and I can practice that in my free time. And it's okay to have another job to pay my bills, and that's fine as well. But if you're thinking of a career shift and you're on the fence about it, um, give it a shot. We have one life to live. What's the worst that can happen? I mean,
yeah.
obviously, evaluate your financial priorities. See that you have some amount of savings, 6 months savings, if you want to try something new, and so that even if you fail, there's not, there's not a huge change in the lifestyle that you're
Yeah.
living right now or the financial commitments that you have. And yeah, just go and try new stuff. Say yes to stuff that you don't know and figure it out. Figure out how to do it. Everyone can do it. If I can do it, so can you.
Mm, absolutely. Thank you so much for the wonderful insights, perspectives, and motivation that you've shared with us. I'm sure a lot of people who listen to this already are going to take back a lot of thoughts and action items for themselves. To anyone who tuned in live or whoever is going to listen to this episode later through other social channels, thank you for being part of this exciting discussion on the podcast. I hope Nutu's incredible journey and our conversation about storytelling, leadership, career reinvention has inspired you to reflect on your own career path and possibilities that lie ahead. As Mridu highlighted, reinventing yourself and embracing the change is key to staying relevant in today's world. It's not about managing shifts in your career, but actively seeking out the new challenges and pushing beyond your comfort zone. That's going to matter most. So, whether it is mastering public speaking, storytelling, building something entirely new like how Mridu did with Mentorleap, the power of growth lies in being adaptable and being open to learning. We are in a time, as I always keep saying, where landscape of work is evolving rapidly. And as Mridu and many of our previous guests have emphasized, thriving in this dynamic world requires courage, adaptability, and a strong vision for your future. I look forward to bringing in more inspiring stories and actionable insights in the future episodes. Until then, stay curious, stay bold, keep tuning into Career Shifts podcasts on LinkedIn, YouTube, YouTube Music, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. See you all soon. Keep shifting forward and upward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And good luck to you, Gopal. This was fantastic. It's a great idea. And I hope you continue with this. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.